any parent listening to this, especially if you're a new parent and you're going through struggles, reach out for advice. Do not be afraid to ask for advice.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Sharing Passion and Purpose podcast. My name is Nancy Moore, and I am the host of this weekly podcast that provides career and creative inspiration to help you build a passionate and purpose-filled life. You'll hear from guests that will help you tap into your creative potential, pursue a career with passion, and build on your biggest and best resource, yourself. I'm excited to have you join this conversation. I'm so happy you're here. Let's get started. Before we jump into this episode, I'd like to take a minute to let you know about my upcoming live events called Conversations with Passion and Purpose. The live events are meant for women, and they'll include entrepreneurs, change makers, young professionals, and college-age women, in an opportunity for them to come together in a space that will inspire, uplift, and generate community while promoting networking and support through connections in a small group atmosphere. To learn about future and upcoming events, make sure that you are following me on social media, Sharing Passion and Purpose on Instagram and Facebook, and LinkedIn, at Passion Sharing on Twitter. I will also be sending out emails, so if you want to go to sharingpassionandpurpose.com and sign up for Nancy's Nudge of Encouragement, that is a way that I connect with the community and send out positivity, and also it will keep you in the loop of upcoming events. So I hope that you join me there as well. Now, here's the episode. So Lynn Hernandez, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. You're amazing.
Thank you for having me.
This is just going to be a lot of fun. So you write for Tulsa Kids.
I'm a fan of yours.
Oh, thanks. Thanks. Likewise. So you write for Tulsa Kids. I write for Tulsa Kids. We had an interview with you 10 years ago. You're a single dad. We're going to talk about that, but I would love to kind of find out a little about your background, how you came to be a DJ.
Okay.
You've been one for a long time. So if you could kind of share a little bit about how you started.
Sure. Okay. The year was 1988. That sounds so long ago. I was at the University of Findlay in Findlay, Ohio. It's a small town. It's between Toledo and Dayton. And my degree was industrial marketing. But one day in my Psych 101 class, it was at the end of the semester, I had never talked to this guy right next to me. The whole semester, never talked to him. Didn't really have any desire to, when you're a college student, you just kind of walk in with your head down, sit down, do your work, and that's it. And he wore a Theta Chi sweatshirt and t-shirts all the time, and I was not a part of the Greek system. But one day he walks in with a Rush concert t-shirt on. And I was at that same concert the night before. And I watched him walk all the way through the class. And I was like staring at him. And I didn't even realize it until he sat down. And then he looked up at me and said, "What?" I said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I just noticed your shirt." And he noticed he was wearing his Rush shirt. And he said, "Yeah, I was at the concert last night." And I said, "I was at the concert last night." And he said, "Oh, well, it's my favorite band." I said, "It's my favorite band." We had sat next to each other the entire semester, never talked until that day. And he said, "You should come to my radio show. I'm a radio DJ at the college radio station. And I play a lot of Rush." So I said, "Okay." I didn't even know where it was on campus. And I ended up going, hanging out with him. And it was awesome. I was hanging out with him so much, Nancy, he goes, "Why don't you get your own radio show so you don't have to hang out with me all the time?" And it just never dawned on me. So I asked our advisor. College radio stations have advisors, is like what a general manager would do. And so talked to him, and a week later I had my own 3-hour show, and that was in 1988, and here I am now.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not a lot of opportunity for DJs. So it's pretty a segmented market.
Right, yeah. It's one way to get into radio is you have to have experience on the control board. That's probably the biggest thing that program directors look for when they're hiring. They can hire anybody, but if you know how to run the board, then you're really valuable. And I did. I learned that in college. So then I got a job at a small actual radio station in Findlay,
Cool.
out in the country, way out in nowhere, in the middle of a cornfield. But it was a rock station, and I loved it. And I got to play Rush and a whole bunch of other really cool rock bands, and I got bit by the radio bug.
Yeah.
And I switched my majors, broke up with my girlfriend. I just never looked back.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's fun. Okay. So it's been 10 years since
Yes.
Tulsa Kids magazine did an article about you. And so we're kind of circling back to you and your life and being a single dad. So what has changed in 10 years?
Oh my. Well, probably the biggest thing is that my career changed. We have had a worldwide pandemic since then, and that affected a lot of people, including me. And even though I had been at my previous radio station, 97.5 KMOD, for 15 years and was very successful. When you're in radio, your success really is measured by your ratings. And my ratings were through the roof. However, in radio, especially during the pandemic, they were cutting back. Everybody was cutting back. And I made a lot of the cuts until I didn't. And it was a shock to hear the words out of my boss's mouth, who, by the way, was a friend also. I had worked with him in Austin, and that's how I ended up with getting the job in Tulsa. Radio is very transient, so people move around a lot. And so anyway, my boss hired my old friend from Austin, hired me to come to Tulsa. And then everything was great for 15 years, and then the pandemic hit, and I didn't make the cut. So I went straight over to our competition, which is 103.3 The Eagle, and Cox Media Group talked to me. They met with me, and I started giving them my elevator speech. Right? Yeah, here's my ratings, here's my accomplishments, and they kind of stopped me right in the middle of it all, and they said, "Lynn, we know who you are. You don't have to tell us. Believe me, we've had to work against you for 15 years. We know who you are." And so they said, the problem with us is that for the same reason iHeart let you go is the same reason why Cox Media can't hire you. We're all on a hiring. The entire industry was on a hiring freeze. So they said, just, keep in touch. And I did for a year. And finally, a year later, I kind of weaseled myself in the back door.
Gosh, okay.
And so I've been there ever since then.
So it's funny, one of the blogs that I was reading, you talked about the person from Austin calling you about the job, and you said, I think in capital letters, don't burn bridges.
Yes, you never do. Never do. You don't burn bridges. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. And especially in an industry like media, which is small, it sounds large because we all watch TV. We all used to listen to radio. I hope people still do. But it sounds bigger than life. But it really, as an industry, it's pretty small.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in getting into the being a single dad, so tell us a little bit about that, like how that's going. You have two kids.
Yeah, over the last 10 years. First of all, I lost my dad and my mom, so that has changed in the last 10 years. And they were big supporters, of course. They were great parents, helping me get through my times of being a single parent. I'm still a single parent. My son Atticus is 14 and my daughter Angel is 10. and they're doing great. They love their school. They have great friends. They're active in extracurricular activities, and it has been a lot of fun. They're young enough, really, that even though they know Daddy's not on KMOD anymore, they're not really bothered by it very much. They're still very happy-go-lucky. In other words, they're not worried. And I want to make sure that they don't, worry about me. But then I found this other job, and so they're doing great, and things are looking up.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So what do you enjoy most, or what's been one of your biggest joys about being a parent?
Wow, just watching them go through their changes. My son, it's a great story, just happened recently. Over the summer, him and his friend were at the mall, and I went to go pick them up. And so I parked the car and went into the mall, and I'm texting my son, where are you, and that kind of thing. I'm ready to go. And so I'm walking through the mall, and I see him and his friend with a boy friend of his with 3 girls. So remember, my son is 14. And there he is walking through the mall holding this girl's hand. Oh my God, that just... I was surprised. I was happy for him. They all looked like they were just having a lot of fun. Bunch of, preteens and young teenagers in the mall, middle of the summer, having fun. And it just, to me, moments like that, those little moments like that. And it's so fun. It was so funny. I kind of got his attention. We're still probably 100 feet away, but I could see him, and I got his attention, and I'm waving, and he saw me and immediately let go of that girl's hand, and the girls were giggling, and him and his friend were nudging each other, and it's those moments as a parent that you see yourself in your kids' eyes, and it just I thought to myself, yeah, that was pretty funny. So of course I had to needle him about it for the next couple of days.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's doing great, and Angel, my daughter, again, is, I'm very blessed that they're doing so well. She's in Girl Scouts, and she loves it, and she's experiencing things like kayaking and just loving life, doing great, loves her school, loves her friends.
Yeah. Oh, God, that's awesome. That's what you want your kids, just to be happy and well-adjusted and have friends and, all that. And Girl Scouts is a great organization.
Oh, yes. Yeah, she loves it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what has been a challenge for you, just maybe one of the challenges you faced being a single dad?
Well, as any single parent listening could probably agree, it's co-parenting. It can be a challenge. My divorce was very contentious, and that seems to overflow into just trying to raise our daughter and our son. My kids have different moms, I should probably mention. But that's always a challenge, when you don't see eye to eye, and so that's probably the biggest challenge. But other than that, my son Atticus, when he had struggles here in Tulsa, but as a blessing, he has a Cherokee citizen registration card. He's half Cherokee. And oh my gosh, they have been such a huge help with his schooling, with many, many things. So Tulsa public schools were great for him. I'm not sure he was great for them. He was getting in trouble. He's a knucklehead many times. And so we got with the tribe. And so now my son Atticus goes to Kingston Elementary, now he's in high school. He started out there in elementary school. So Kingston, Oklahoma is way down by Durant. So that's been a real, oh my gosh. Well, I wrote a Dad's Rock Tulsa Kids article about when he went off to boarding school and how hard that was for me. And, but it was great for him. and he was excited about going, and he was anxious, and I couldn't have been more blessed to have that strength in him to help me be strong for him. So anyway, that's been one of the big challenges of making sure he starts his schooling career. Because as we all know, as adults, if you don't have a good foundation in school, it's hard to go through junior high, high school, get to college. If you don't, you got to learn the basics. Mm-hmm. Because everything else is built on top of that. Mm-hmm. So he was struggling just learning the basics, just, adjusting to school. But he loves living down there with I should give a shout out to the Chickasaw Children's Village. So he goes down there and stays during school, and he comes back to Tulsa for all the holidays.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's been here all summer and meeting girls at the mall.
Yeah. Yes, he has.
Yeah.
Yeah, having a lot of fun. That's interesting. Okay. So do you have any regrets about your parenting, would you say? I
don't know about regrets. I mean, I did my best. Mm-hmm. I think that's all we can do as parents is do our best. Mm-hmm. I reached out for advice, and I did all that. I reached out for, believe me, lots of advice.
That's smart. Your resources. Mm-hmm, use resources.
Any parent listening to this, especially if you're a new parent and you're going through struggles, reach out for advice. Do not be afraid to ask for advice. Sometimes guys, are reluctant to do that. I can figure it out. Oh, I can figure this out. But don't be afraid to reach out for advice. So I did. I mean, I contacted the Tulsa Health Department. I contacted lots of other therapists. And we tried many, many things. And so using a little bit of knowledge from each one of those experiences, I think really helped me to do the best I could. I still feel like it wasn't enough, because Atticus, my son, had to go to a whole different school district before he could finally settle down and focus. Mm-hmm. So, I don't really regret it, but I think, like I said, I felt like I did everything I could. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It sounds like
the co-parenting part really, was a struggle too. That mm-hmm. didn't help anything.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel like you've been a good advocate for him, though, and just taking him sometimes out of that situation and I don't know the situation, but that's maybe just spiraling downward and like just setting a new sights on something else and a new focus, new friends, that can kind of go a long way in development.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, well, and I was the same. He's so much like me.
Oh, you can see it.
Yeah, I can see it in him, myself and him, and I struggled in school too, and it was not easy, but I made it through.
Yeah,
even went to college and got 2 degrees. So, and I would explain that to him, but it would like probably for me when I was younger, in one ear and out the other.
Yeah, yeah.
But now he would listen to his friends.
Right.
Yeah. So I tried to make sure he surrounded himself with kids that, could help him and not hurt him.
Right.
And so that's been a challenge. But yeah, he very much loves going down to the Chickasaw Children's Village. And so, yeah.
Okay, cool. So what would your kids say about you? What would we hear if we asked them, like, just how you are as a dad?
Okay, so I've heard my daughter say this before.
Okay.
Angel, she loves how when she comes to Dad's house, we have things planned and we do things. We get outside and we go on adventures. We'll rent an RV and go somewhere, or we'll go to Oklahoma City and just get a hotel room for the night and then go to Frontier City the next day, or Hurricane Harbor, or, I try to get out and experience things, because that's what my dad did with us. My mom was the quiet one and my dad was not at all. And I feel like that's kind of how my situation is too. And so my kids would tell you about me that, Dad likes to go do stuff. sometimes even when they don't want to do stuff, I'll drag them along with me to do a fundraiser. If you've read my Dad's Rock Tulsa Kids blog, I do lots of fundraisers, and I bring my children with me to teach them to give back. Because my dad did that. My dad was very active with the United Farm Workers Association. He knew Cesar Chavez personally. And so I remember going with my dad to a lot of these events and not wanting to go at all. But you know what, Nancy? Afterwards, now I can see why he did that.
And it's funny. I feel like I'm glad you see that perspective, because I'm ahead of you with my kids. I have a 20 and a 22-year-old. So making them go, even when they say, "Oh, I don't want to go," it's like they just have to say that to kind of voice. But then it's looking back, they're glad that they went. So I'm glad that you are doing that. Yeah. And they can see, because they'll remember those times when you went to these fundraisers and how much was raised, and what you did, for the community that you're living in. So yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, that's one thing I did. That's how I started my Tulsa Rocks podcast.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right. When I left KMOD, I really, and I realized I was not going to get another job in radio, because, like I said, the whole industry was on a hiring freeze. So a friend of mine and I were just at a bar having some drinks, and it was his idea. He said, why don't you start a podcast thing? You did that with KMOD, right? And I did a little bit of it, but not a lot. So that kind of was a seed in the back of my head. And then shortly after that, Oklahoma Blood Institute had contacted me and said, "Hey, can we have Dr. Armitage on your Hot Topic show? And, we have a big blood drive coming up." Well, Hot Topic was the name of the public affairs show that I did at iHeartRadio. And so I had this huge Rolodex of contacts of public information officers and people. And so I had to tell her, well, I would love to, but I'm not at KMOD anymore. I'm so sorry. I wish I could help you. And she said, well, can we just do an interview on your Facebook page? Because she knew I had a significant social media following. And I said, you want to be on my Facebook page? I guess so. I mean, I had known Oklahoma Blood Institute for many years. 13, 14 years I'd had him on my radio show at least once a year, if not more. So I had a really good rapport with them. And so when she brought that up, I said, well, sure, I guess so. We can all do our interviews on our cell phone these days. So I did. They loved it. They wanted to be on again. And I thought, I wonder if I could just transform everything I did as a public affairs director for iHeartMedia into my own thing. And then my friend and I, I was talking with about it, him and I brainstormed a couple things. And do you know what? My son Atticus came up with the name Tulsa Rocks. So now I've been doing that for almost 3 years. And that has parlayed into, it's exploded. I've got my own line of merch. I was talking, okay, I'm going to name drop here. Are you ready?
Do it. Yeah.
Okay. So over the years, being in radio, I've gotten to know a bunch of rock stars. Bret Michaels of Poison is one that I know pretty well. So when Poison was at BOK Center, I went backstage before the show to hang out and talk with him. And I gave him one of my new Tulsa Rocks hats. And do you know what? He came out for his encore wearing my hat.
Oh, that's
and it
so
just blew
cool.
me away. I thought it was cool.
That is so cool.
Yeah. So, I've got sponsors now, and we do lots of fundraisers. And so my podcast has been a great vehicle for me to do what I've always enjoyed doing, and that's giving back to the community. It's not just rock stars. It's not just talking about Rocklahoma. It's not just that. my podcast is called Tulsa Rocks because I support and raise funds for all things that make Tulsa rock, whether it's music or first responders or small businesses. You know, during the pandemic, a lot of small businesses really struggled, especially if they were service leaning businesses. So that's what my podcast is all about.
Okay. Oh, I love it. Okay, so you mentioned Rocklahoma, and you're the face of Rocklahoma. So, can you talk about how people might perceive you as a parent? I mean, you're being in rock, because that I don't know. It seems like it would come with some kind of connotation or some kind of stigma, you know, of like, can you be a good dad and be in rock and be hanging out with the Poison, can you, so talk about that.
Yeah, that's, well, I'll use that example.
Yeah.
I remember when my daughter was born, Angel. Again, Bret Michaels was in Tulsa touring, and I was so happy to introduce him to my new baby girl, and he was so happy to meet her, and I got a picture of them together standing by his tour bus and all that. So it's pretty cool, and it's been interesting being the unofficial mayor of Rocklahoma. That's what they call me. I did not come up with that moniker. That was something that a friend of mine named KC, he was also a DJ on KMOD for over 10 years. He kind of came up with that. He talked about it on his radio show. He mentioned it, and then it just took on a life of its own. People were talking about, whenever they would reference me in Rocklahoma, they would call me the unofficial mayor of Rocklahoma, and it just really stuck. So, but yeah, Rocklahoma is really more of a experience for parents to leave the kids at home and go and sort of remember what it's like to be just, a person having fun with their friends. And so that's really what Rocklahoma is. I mean, kids can go if they want, but even Rocklahoma will tell you, we don't have an age limit here, but get a babysitter, let them have fun with their grandma, grandpa, or whatever, and you come out and you have fun. Mm-hmm. That's what we're all about. So yeah. Now it's funny how, like, I'll take my kids somewhere to a concert or whatever, and we'll go backstage and meet the band, and they're just so bored because it's not always Justin Bieber or somebody that JoJo Siwa or somebody, because I know the older rock bands, right? Uh-huh. And they don't. Uh-huh.
But now I feel like now they do. Like, well, you're getting...
They sort of do, yeah.
Yeah.
Whether they want to or not.
Yeah, yeah. Do they realize how cool that is to be able to go backstage and like hang with these kind of iconic people?
I remember watching an interview with some movie star, and they were asking him, so your kids, what do they think about, meeting all these other big movie stars? And it really is not a big deal at all to them, because they're like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Can I just get back to my phone now?
Yeah. I know. Unfortunately, I know. Okay. So, is there something that you have learned throughout your career over, spanning decades, that you'd like to share with people?
Something that I learned?
Yeah.
We talked about it already. Don't ever burn a bridge.
Okay.
I mean, especially in a industry like media, or even more specific, radio. You just, it's so unstable, and you just never know when you're going to be moving again, or who you're going to run into further down the road. It could be, somebody that you had worked with in the past, which has happened a lot in this industry. So don't burn a bridge, and also build bridges. Don't just burn a current existing bridge, but get out there and, don't be afraid to email somebody or in your same position halfway across the country. Mm-hmm. Introduce yourself. Mm-hmm. Say, hey, you don't know me, but, I'm in Tulsa, and I'm doing sort of the same thing you are. I saw you on LinkedIn or something, whatever, just try to network like that. And I mean, the pandemic affected so many things, and sadly, I think it affected how we interact with each other face to face. With Zoom calls, it was so easy. Let's just do a Zoom call. Okay. And that's fine. But when you meet face to face with somebody, I just think the conversation sticks a little more.
I love that you talked about LinkedIn, because I talk to my students about that, and I think it's an underrated tool for networking. And you can reach, like you're talking about, finding somebody across the country that isn't here in Tulsa, and maybe, reaching out and having a conversation. And I think that's cool, because there's not any limit on that. You can reach out to somebody in Chicago, or, if it's somebody here in Tulsa, then maybe you do meet, or, whatever, in person.
LinkedIn is great.
It's awesome.
It really is a job finding app, but it's also a job networking app. Like you said, and when I left KMOD, I signed up for a pro subscription on LinkedIn for a year. I think it's $50 for the year, something like that. But yeah, it's great.
I haven't ever done the pro. Maybe I need to do the pro.
Yeah, well, there's more information. You can get more info on other profiles and stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah.
Analytics, you can, there's more data that you have access to that way.
Okay. And that's a small investment to be able to maybe dive a little deeper and, that's great. Okay, so my theme for this year on my podcast is Grow More in 2024. So I'm wondering how you are growing either personally or professionally right now.
Well, okay, so personally for me is professionally. There's almost no line between those two. I live my life on social media. I mean, that's one reason why our editor, Betty Casey, who, by the way, was on my public affairs radio show on iHeart at least 3 times a year. I would have Betty on talking about, all right, Betty, so we're going into summer break. What can our listeners do with their kids this summer? And she's such a wealth of information about that. So when she knew I lost my job, she said, you know what? I have always wanted to get a dad's point of view. She said, we have a lot of really great bloggers, but they're all moms. And you got that whole rock star local celebrity thing going. I think it'd be great. What do you think? And I was so, first of all, grateful that she asked. I was surprised. And so I dove right into it. And she said, just talk about whatever you want to being a dad, right? And so when you ask about personal and professional, it's the same. When I write on my blog, all I talk about is my personal experiences with my kids. And same thing on the radio. I talk so much about my life on the radio, whether my listeners want to hear it or not.
I think they want to hear it.
It's what do you I mean, a lot of radio DJs are like this. So what'd you do over the weekend? Well, this is what we did over the weekend. Yuck, yuck, yuck. So, and then now with social media, the same thing applies. I mean, we're on social media. We're showing our food we ate for lunch. I mean, that's just what we do on social media. My dog Domino has his own TikTok video thing that has we play fetch in the backyard. That's all we do, Nancy. And I'll get 700 people watching my dog play fetch. It's just the weirdest thing. But, it's just social media, and some people are interested in it. And it's a break from their busy day at work just to watch a dog play fetch. I mean, who doesn't love that? So growing more in 24 for me would have to be expanding what I'm currently doing. All right. So I have a podcast called Tulsa Rocks, and then on the radio side, and then my blog with Tulsa Kids Magazine, Dads Rock. And then so my radio side is I'm on 103.3 The Eagle, which is a classic rock station. And I'm on K95.5, which is a country station, and KRMG, which is our news talk station, what I do for KRMG is you can tell my brand. My show on KMOD is called Tulsa Rocks Weekend. So every Friday on 102.3 KRMG, I talk about some of the fun events coming up for the weekend. Right? It's just my wheelhouse. I'm not going to invent myself at 58 years old. So this is just what I've always done. It's what I enjoy. It's what I have a passion for. And it's what I'm going to continue to do until, something strikes me different. But so growing, and also I have a new TV segment on Fox 23 called Tulsa Sounds.
And I just saw you on there. Yes. I just forgot about that. That's right.
So me and my
what is her name? Yeah.
Jill Monroe also works at 103.3 The Eagle. She's been there for many, many years, 20 years. And Ron Terrell, who's a huge music buff. People don't know that about Ron, which is funny because we see Ron Terrell on Fox 23 and have for 15 plus years. And he's very serious and talks about the news. Well, he also loves music. I see him at concerts all the time. So us three together make, I think, a perfect trio of what are some of the fun concerts coming up.
Yeah.
What are some of the fun Tulsa music events happening? And so that's what we do.
Okay. Yeah, you have a lot going on.
There's a lot of little things, a lot of little eggs in my basket.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. Because we talked about both of us have a lot of different jobs, but we like it. We like it that way.
Keeps it interesting.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I'm never bored, and I love everything that I do. And so, yeah, sounds like you are the exact same. Because when I was reading about you being a DJ, you said this is my dream job. So
it was, and I didn't even realize it. Like I said at the very beginning of our interview, I tried being a rock star, and I just did not have the chops, the skills.
Yeah.
But I could talk to people all day long.
Yeah.
And I could talk about music all day long, so that's how I put that together.
Yeah.
So hopefully for me, to grow in 24 would be to expand my radio part of it all. On 103.3 The Eagle. Okay. I'm also a radio DJ on one of the cool things about radio these days is we can expand our own footprint, not just in Tulsa, but I'm also on the radio in San Antonio at a cool rock station called 99.5 KISS.
Okay.
And so we have that ability to be able to do that. And so I would love to expand in that way too. When I was at iHeartRadio, oh my gosh, I was in Tulsa, Oklahoma City, and Dallas every week. And more.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. Okay. Just due to technology, you're a DJ there and you can remotely do.
Yep.
Okay, that is so cool.
Magic of radio.
Yeah.
It's fun.
That's cool.
And remember, I worked in Dallas for 3.5 years, so I knew the market real well. I'm a huge Dallas Cowboys fan. So it was, I loved it.
Yeah. Okay. An easy in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, okay, in wrapping up, do you have a favorite band or a favorite song?
Oh,
like, sometimes I ask, what are you reading? What's on your nightstand? But for you, like all that you...
Well, Rachel Maddow's new book, but music-wise, ask me today, and I will tell you a different answer tomorrow.
Okay.
And I would have told you a different answer yesterday.
You just have a love of music.
It's one of those, music is like that. Mm-hmm. It's very emotional. It's very in the moment. I guess I probably had more Rush albums in my collection than any other band. Mm-hmm. I've seen Rush in concert more than any other band. So I would have to probably say that, Rush.
Is there anybody you haven't interviewed that you would like to talk to?
Oh, man.
Does anybody stick out?
I've interviewed Rush.
Okay,
I have interviewed my favorite.
Cool. What was that like?
Oh, my gosh. I was so nervous. It was with Geddy Lee, the singer and the bass player, Neil Peart, the drummer and lyricist of the band, is very... I don't know if reclusive is the right word. He just doesn't do interviews. Getty's their spokesperson for the band. So it was with him. And while I was doing the interview, Alex Lifeson, the guitar player, kind of popped in to grab something out of the dressing room. And it was just the most bizarre moment because I had listened to them since I was a kid. And now here I am sitting in front of them asking them questions about their new record. And it was just very, very cool. You know, I was so nervous, didn't sleep at all the night before, had my questions all typed out, and I was all prepared. So, yeah, that was really wild.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like you'd get nervous, but in that situation,
I mean,
the
I've
nerves
interviewed...
maybe are more excitement.
Linkin Park was one of the biggest bands of the 90s rock alternative scene, and I got a chance to interview them back in the 90s, and Green Day. I wasn't so much nervous because I was going to interview them, but what I was nervous about, really more than anything, is making sure I wasn't late for the interview, my equipment didn't fail on me, that something didn't happen where the band canceled all interviews. Really, I was more nervous about all the mechanics of going through something like that than it was to actually sit in front of the band Linkin Park to talk to them. But I was certainly nervous when I met Dio. He was another one, Ronnie James Dio. I was so nervous about because I'd listened to him and his music for when I was a kid.
Yeah.
He didn't have anything out relevant, really. Not like Linkin Park. They were on the top of the charts.
Yeah.
But when I interviewed Ronnie James Dio, he was just out on tour to make some money.
Yeah.
But here I was talking to him. That freaked me out.
Wow.
That really freaked me out. And Ted Nugent was another one that really freaked me out because I was kind of nervous, but he had me dying laughing, like, immediately. He was so funny.
Yeah.
One question and Ted Nugent will just talk for a half hour. So he's like the easiest interview ever.
I think you're the easiest
Oh.
interview ever. This has been so much fun.
Oh, thanks, Nancy.
Well, I appreciate your time so much,
Yeah.
and it's been fun. I've seen you in passing at different things, so it's been fun to sit down and get to talk to you and share your story a little bit. So thanks for being here.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me. I'll see you in 10 years.
Yeah. We're doing it. We're
We'll
going to have to do it before then.
Every 10 years.
No, before that. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I appreciate you being here. And don't forget to connect with me on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Sharing Passion and Purpose, and Twitter at Passion Sharing. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.